then we'll get in, we'll actually take it apart. And then once we take it apart, then we'll go outside and we'll actually fire up the unit outside, run different shower heads and stuff like that.
I know, it's going to stay right
How we're
there.
going to structure it today. So some of this is a review for some of you guys that have installed several. Some of this might be new. This brochure right here is an excellent tool. It kind of goes step by step. If you're talking to somebody about the internal, you don't have to remember everything that I've said. It's a good tool to use when you're talking to your customer. The first thing on the first page is going to talk about what's a hybrid. The idea behind a hybrid is you get the best of both worlds, tank and tankless. Nice thing about a tank heater is you've got all that standby water, hot, ready to go. You turn your point of use on, hot water's coming, regardless if that heater fires or not, you got hot water coming down the line. Drawback is you have to heat that water constantly, so standby loss is a lot greater. The other drawback is you run out of water in that tank, and then what happens? You got no hot water. Tankless, you have an endless supply. The drawback being you have to wait for it to go through its startup before you get that endless supply. Once it starts, it doesn't stop, unless of course you turn their point of use on and off. One of the drawbacks to tankless, however, is that it goes through a heat exchanger. So it's got that coil of pipe that it's got to go through. It has to slow down to go through that coil of pipe. And that's flow restriction and pressure loss. So a common example that I like to use is, let's say on a day like today, a tankless unit's rated at 6 GPM. You got 3 showers running, that's roughly 6 GPM. Everybody in the shower's happy. Got hot water, no problems. Then somebody goes and turns on a lavatory. Now you're close to 8 GPM. You've exceeded the capacity. The guy's in the shower. Now the water either is dribbling or it's cold. All right? Bad stuff. Let's say you have an internal installed. You've got it set at 120 degrees. Same scenario. We're rated at 6 GPM today. Everything's equal. 3 showers running, everybody's happy, you turn on that lavatory. The guys in the shower will never know that that lavatory got turned on because there is no flow restriction. And that's the #1 selling point. There is no flow restriction. 8 GPM, we've exceeded the capacity for today, but what happens is instead of sending 120 degree water down the line, it might be 116 degrees that it's sending. Still plenty hot enough to take a shower, wash your hands, all of that, but nobody in the shower is any wiser. That's the big thing, no flow restriction. So that's kind of what the hybrid technology and internal is all about. You flip the page, it kind of goes again with what I was just talking about, tank versus tankless. And then you get into a diagram of our unit. Our unit, instead of using a flame bar like a tankless does, we actually use an infrared burner. And we'll take that burner out here in a little bit, but we have an infrared burner. That infrared burner has the capability of 500 plus points of modulation. So on a tankless unit, you got a flame bar, you got low, medium, and high. Some of them it's just low or high. So whenever you have a demand and all they need is low, this much of that flame bar comes on. It's not a problem. Now you go to, let's say, really high capacity. The whole thing's running. Again, not a problem. But you need somewhere in the middle. What it will do is it'll go low, high, low, high, low, high. And so it's going to try to sort of average out what it needs. So now your performance curve actually looks like this, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. With our unit, 500 plus points of modulation, if it needs this temperature, the burner can run there. If all of a sudden you kick it on and it needs to come up to here, it can run right there. You don't get this wavy performance curve. And how we achieve that is the infrared burner is up inside this tank. You guys have handled the burners, you already know what they look like. So you got the infrared burner, it's up inside this tank. Now the tank is really more like a donut. And in that donut it's got 40 tubes that are egg-shaped like this. So the burner comes on, the water surrounds the tubes, and you've got heat coming from the side of that burner to the side of that donut. And you're getting heat transfer there. Then the fan blows from underneath, the heat comes up, down through the tubes, so we're actually using the exhaust to go down through the tubes, and now it's heating from the inside out to that water. Then it goes into this pan down here, and we have an offset exhaust to the back. So now it has to go into the pan, over here to exit. And when it's in that pan, it's heating from underneath. So 3 different points where we're actually heating that water. So we can cover more surface area, we can heat it more efficiently. That's how we're able to get 98% thermal efficiency on natural gas, 99 on LP. So that's how the burner works. The exhaust, because we're able to pull so much heat out of that burner before it exits the unit, whenever it exits this unit, it's only between 150 to 180 degrees. So you can vent with Schedule 40 PVC right out of the top of the unit. 3-inch Schedule 40 PVC fits right into this fitting, no glue required. Stick it right in. So the water, how the water enters the unit, you can kind of follow the blue line here. The water connection, cold is at the top, it comes down this stainless steel pipe, down here, enters the tank from the bottom, fills up, gets heated, and exits the top. There is a mixing valve on this unit. The reason for the mixing valve is when the unit heats, it's going to heat it to 8 degrees above set point. So inside this tank, if you've got it set on 120, it's actually 128 right after it heats it. Then it's not going to fire again until you're 8 degrees below set point. So 16-degree difference. But let's say you've got this heated up to 128 and you only want 120 coming out. You turn that faucet on right after it sets it at 128. The mixing valve is going to mix it down to 120 before it exits the unit. So that way you actually get your set point coming out. All right? So that's what the mixing valve is for. So the way that the water enters the unit, fills up the tank, and then exits the tank, that allows us to not have any type of flow restriction or pressure loss because whatever comes in goes right out. 20 GPM gets you 20 GPM out. It may not be hot, but if it's going in, it will come out. Depends on your setup and your degree rise.
So these don't have an impeller to slow it down if it's not getting the right temperature?
No, we do use flow sensors, but we use them differently than the other manufacturers. We monitor the flow coming in and the flow coming out strictly for monitoring purposes, no other reason. So we can tell you how many GPM are coming into the unit. All right, the next page is going to get into some of the performance stuff that we just talked about. Startup lag, cold water sandwich. You're familiar with the term cold water sandwich. You know, we're taught to turn it off, turn it off, turn it off, back and forth. Every time you do that, the tankless unit has to go through its startup cycle. Well, while it's going through its startup cycle, cold water is coming down the line. So you get hot, cold, cold water sandwich. Ours pulls off of this tank. So if you turn it off, turn it back on. But while it's going through its startup cycle, you're pulling off this tank. So it's hot, 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 hot.
So does that tank stay at a certain temperature at all times, like a regular tankless, or like a regular tank?
Yes. And that feeds into their next point, which is our activation. There's actually 3 forms of activation for the unit. Tankless, some of them just switch to 0.4. 0.4, 0.5 gallons per minute flow activates the unit. So if you're flowing 0.3, the unit's never going to come on a standard tankless. Mm-hmm. With ours, it's 0.5. 0.5 GPM will activate it. But a temperature loss inside the tank will also trigger it. Okay. So if you're just barely trickling that hot water tab,
like a lab.
Right, barely trickling it or barely mixing it, it's going to sense a temperature change in this tank and it's going to fire and start heating.
Just like a regular tank water heater.
Exactly. And then
when the shower kicks in, then it automatically kicks on.
Well, it would still already be on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, if you have.
But not with the high flow rate.
Right, if you have initial flow that's high, yeah, then it's going to come right on. Okay. Yeah, exactly. The third activation is if you're running continuous flow, so like a continuous recirc 24 hours a day, you're recircuiting the unit. It's not a problem, doesn't avoid the warranty. But what happens is it changes modes. So instead of monitoring the temperature in the tank, it's going to fire whenever you have an 18-degree difference between incoming and outgoing. So the tank has no factor in that. That's the 3 different ways of activating the unit.
You have to change the dip switch for that to work like that, right?
Only if you use this, if you use the IPC in here, which I don't recommend, because we all know you all know how that works. I'll get to that in a minute. So if the unit senses continuous flow, then it switches to that mode automatically. The next thing is going to be the warranty. We have a 20-year no-leak warranty on the tank and burner assembly. That's for residential, 10-year for commercial. Everything else in the unit, if they register it online, is 5 years, and it's a 1-year labor. If they mail the warranty card in, then it's only 3 years, but it's still a 1-year labor. Next, we're going to get into some of the more different points on the installation. The training we're doing today is what we call our FAST training, Factory Authorized Service Technician. You're the guys that we want. If there's an issue out in this area, you're the experienced guys, you've torn the unit apart, you're the guys that are going to go out on the service call. Whether you install it, maybe someone else installs it, they don't want to service it, so Grant Hall will tell them, look online, it'll say FAST next to the company name, that's the guy you want to call. So you guys might be going on other people's installs. The most common problems we have are install related. Number one being gas. A lot of guys they take a 50-gallon natural gas out, they throw this unit up, plug it in, doesn't work, I don't know what to tell you, call the terminal. You need to check the gas, exactly. You need to check the gas and make sure that you have sufficient gas. The second thing is generally condensate line or venting related. That's the other two. So this unit, whenever you get it in the box, whether it's a small unit or a big unit, it can be indoor or outdoor. Floor mount, it comes with these rubber legs, or wall mount, it comes with the wall brackets. It can be indoor, outdoor, wall mount, floor mount, direct vent or power vent, natural gas or LP, all out of the same box. So when you open the box up, you get this accessory box that they actually now label accessory box on top. They didn't used to. You open it up and you've got a T&P valve, you got a drain valve, you got a PVC T that goes on the condensate line. You have an LP. It actually is Schedule 40, but it's from Taiwan, so they use gray.
Good luck finding that size.
Yeah, it's a weird size. Half inch is too small and 3/4 too big.
I'm buying a PVC T and putting a threaded bushing in it.
It does come with it, but I've asked them to find a U.S. supplier for that so that we can find PVC that will go in it, that you don't have to put gobs and gobs of glue. So it does come with that. It comes with the LP orifice, an LP sticker, so if you do change it, you can change out the sticker. It comes with 6-inch stainless steel legs, so if you're doing commercial and you need to get it up 6 inches up off the floor, it comes with those legs. Wall mount bracket, 2 screens, so if you're doing a termination outside, you can put the screen on it so you don't get birds and animals in it. And
now, is this one required like on?
So it does come with a bird cage.
bird screen.
We call it bird cage, but I mean, yeah. So like on this, on Nords or other brands I've installed, you have to do a loop into them. Same thing on this one here as well.
What do you mean a loop into them?
On PVC, it's coming out of the roof.
Okay.
You have to actually put a 45-degree or come back down with a 90-degree, and the bird screen goes up inside the hub.
Yes, it's the
Same thing.
Right.
Okay.
If you're doing like a rooftop and you want to do the candy cane style, then you can put that in there. You can use the concentric kit, and that's the intake is on the side, the exhaust is up the center, and then that thing's about this tall. And so then you have one penetration there, and then it comes with that cap, so you don't have to put a bird screen on it.
Okay.
The horizontal termination, that's for if you're exiting a wall with 3-inch, that fits right on there, on that 3-inch. Stainless steel gives you a little bit more attractive look than the candy cane on the outside wall. And that already has a screen inside it. The outdoor vent cap assembly, that mounts right here on top. These 6 screws come out, and that fits on there. And that way you've got a stainless.
You want to make it external?
Right, so if you're
You
mounting this on
use
the
that as an
rooftop.
external too?
Absolutely, you can do outdoor install.
The front plate's not going to be weatherproof?
Well,
I'm talking about the digital part of it, is it?
I've had this, I keep this in the back of my truck pretty much year round. I got snowed on last year. I've run it through the car wash 2 different times, and it's still fine. Yeah. We do have a remote controller. If you install a remote controller, it locks this panel out, and then the remote controller does all the controlling. So if you do a rooftop and you want to pull it down for a restaurant or business or something, it'll lock that out.
Are these actual remote control, or are they,
That's what I was gonna ask, or did they go on the wall?
are they wired? Or are they wired?
They're wired. They're not wireless. It's a wired remote control.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it audible yet?
We don't sell a lot of remote controls, so they haven't really spent a lot of time changing it. I've asked them to do an audible, and I've also asked them to make it programmable. And that way you can turn it off where it doesn't fire all night for like a business.
That's a big sound technique for me, though, the remote controls. I mean, when I tell people that you can actually mount it on your wall and control the temperature settings. I mean, I haven't installed any of these yet. I got 2 that I want to install next week, but on Nords, I'm a big Nords person, you know, but that's the big sound technique, of having that remote control.
Yeah.
They can actually set it, you know,
Yeah,
change
not
the
everybody's
settings on
gonna,
it.
you wanna walk up and
I'll
get
go up into the attic and make
Absolutely.
changes to it, you know.
Yeah. We don't send the wire with it, it's just,
It's just regular, like,
Just
door
wire,
barrel, just the door barrel lock.
yeah, and that'll work on that. And then the other accessory we kind of talked about earlier is the neutralizer kit. So when the condensation's coming out, if you're gonna go into like a cast iron drain, you need to neutralize it first. If you're gonna go just dump it on outside or on a concrete pad, you wanna neutralize it, or eventually it will eat away that concrete.
Explain to me the reason why that is. Why is this tank changing the water like it is to?
It's not the tank, that's off the condensation off the exhaust.
Okay.
Whenever you get into higher efficiency, the only way to do that is to have a condensing unit.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is that all this condensation is generated inside this exhaust. And so it comes down here and collects, and then we've got to get rid of it somehow.
Okay.
And so it comes out the unit, just like the furnace on an air conditioner. The same thing. It generates it off of the exhaust.
I don't know what's making the water acidic.
The way, I don't know all the particulars about how it happens, but my understanding is the way it's generated in this, it pulls a lot of the oxygen out of it, and then that makes it acidic. That's what I've been told. Again, I'm sure a chemist or AC guy could probably tell you more about that. but-
oxygenated, it's been burned.
There you go, that makes sense. So,
I was questioning that when you said that. I really was, but I wasn't gonna say that. I was gonna let you roll with it, okay? It sounded good to me, so I was gonna use it, but, okay, that makes sense.
so that's how it's generated, and that's why we need to figure out a way to dispose of it. If this unit runs continuous for hours straight, never shuts off for that solid hour, it'll generate about 4 gallons of condensation. So,
Wow, okay.
yeah, you will notice condensation come out of this thing whenever you fire it up and it's running. So, plan for the condensation. Again, we send that T. It is a weird size. Double glue it, triple glue it, or find a different way until we can figure out.
Is that threaded on the
Yes,
side?
yes, it is threaded.
Can we just use a regular thread, use our own material then?
Oh, absolutely. You don't have to use ours. We just send it. The reason we send it is because we used to send a flexible hose, and we were getting a lot of bubbles and stuff. So it was trapping the air in there.
Yeah,
Vapor lock, that's what I'm looking for. So then we started recommending using a T. So use a T and then connect the hose to it. Well, then guys were leaving the hose coiled because it's nice and neat install. However, it's gravity, so it would never go anywhere.
Drain on.
So we did rid of all that, and we said, okay, just use a T. Well, then someone in the field said, well, if you're going to recommend a T, send a T. Well, it's great, and they did, but it's, like I said, it's based on metric.
Yeah, metric.
So it's not really going to help us a lot.
So if we just buy our own
So if you just
female adapter, our own T, we're okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then when you put it on there, you'll see on the one out there, he's got his on there, but when you put it on there, you put one end up as a vacuum brake. Don't trap it because it's already got a trap inside.
I'm looking, I saw that.
Yeah, so don't double trap it. It's already got the trap. And that trap has a screen in it to collect any debris that might come down.
So as far as parts, say in a service, on the service end of it, as far as parts, if a customer called and said, I've got a bad part, what are we looking at as far as like helping a customer out? Is it kind of pop out parts, easy to change out?
Yeah, and when we start taking it apart, you'll see how easy it is.
Okay.
The first thing you notice is there's a lot more room to work than there are those other brands. And you don't have that big gob of wire sitting right there anyway. So we'll finish with the install and then we'll start taking it apart. So install, the big thing, when you're venting, you can use 3-inch right out the top. You can run up to 100 feet of 3-inch pipe, subtracting 5 feet for each bend. If you use the concentric kit, then you're limited to 50 feet, including the length of the concentric kit. If you come 6 inches out of the unit with 3-inch and then bell reduce, then you can run up to 35 feet of 2-inch, subtracting 5 feet for each bend. So if you're doing a retro install, again, 50-gallon coming out, you've already got your B vent there. You don't want to make another penetration. Come out of the unit, bell reduced to 2-inch. You can run that 2-inch all the way up through that B vent. You got to run it all the way up to the top though, so that you don't get condensation on the inside of that metal pipe, because it will eat it up. And then you don't have to make another roof penetration. And then you can power vent if you got enough makeup air in the room, or direct vent after that.
You're just doing 2 penetrations or 1?
You're 2 penetrations, 1 if you're doing the concentric.
Okay.
Unless you're able to power vent, then you only need 1. So like in this room, we got more than enough makeup air here. So we can just come 6 inches up with a 90, pull our makeup air from in here, run our exhaust.
So if I was to install that in the attic, I could do this, what you're talking about just now?
As long as you get enough fresh air coming in. If they got that foam insulation, those things are sealed up so tight, it would use up all the air, but there wouldn't be enough recovery air.
Okay.
So standard, just cellulose or whatever, you'd probably be fine.
So the concentric kit doesn't come with the unit? That's
separate.
Okay.
Yeah, because not every install is going to require that. Now, we make 3 units. We make the 145S, 145,000 BTUs. We make that one, rule of thumbs, 3 showers. We make the one GU195S, 199,000 BTUs. Rule of thumb on that one is going to be 5 showers. And then we make a 195M. If you flip to the very back page, you can see where it's got the model numbers right up on the top here. The M unit is our commercial unit. M stands for multiple. You have a situation where you need 2, 3, 4 units. Use the M units, they connect with a wire, an MCU with a cable, and they will communicate with each other. They'll alternate which is primary. Every 24 hours they alternate. They don't all come on at one time, just enough to feed your demand will come on. That's what the M units are for.
You can daisy chain them?
Correct.
You can daisy chain them?
Correct.
Okay.
The M unit only is the only unit that you can common vent. So you see on the front of the spec sheet here, where they've common vented the exhaust. That's only the M unit. You cannot do that with an S unit. An M unit, you can common vent the intake and the exhaust up to 4 units. So let's say you got 8 units that you need for a big job. You can connect all 8 via the MCU cable, but you can only common vent 4. So you'll have 2 banks of 4, but they can all talk to each other for your common venting and your MCU. We talked about recirc. I'll talk a little bit about the IPC, the internal pump control. We do have a plug right here on the inside of the unit. So if you have a recirc pump, you can plug it directly into our unit. I generally do not recommend using this control because it's a little over-engineered. When you and I think of a recirc pump, we think of 2 things. It's either controlled by an aquastat or it's controlled by a timer, right? Or it's continuous flow. This is controlled by time and temperature. Both conditions have to be met. So if the time has been met, but not the temperature, it doesn't come on, or vice versa. Both conditions have to be met. So you might have a situation where you want it coming on every 20 minutes, but it's a hot day or it's a hot attic, so this thing's not losing standby temperature very often. So it might only fire once every hour, whenever you're expecting it to come on every 20 minutes, because the temperature hadn't been met, the time had. That's why I don't recommend using this, because it doesn't work the way we're used to it working. You're better off just using a timer, an external timer, an external aquastat to control the pump. But if you have a new installation and they're not used to recirc pumps, then it'll work fine, because it will still give them more hot water, more standby hot water filling those lines than if you were to use nothing. So install-wise, that's kind of some of the things. The venting, the condensate, those are some key areas if you go out on someone else's job to look at. When you call into tech, a lot of times that's what they're going to want a picture of. They'll actually send a picture of the venting so they can see exactly what people have done. We've had some interesting ones. Let's see. There was the guy that made his own concentric kit with dryer vent, flexible dryer vent, and kind of tied them together to go out. And so I guess it was just sucking air like this. I'm not exactly sure that was working, but it didn't work well. We had guys that will put a bushing in here and then come straight 2-inch out of here. That doesn't work very well. It's very restricted that way. So don't do that. 6 inches, bell reduce, then go to your 2-inch. Just about every creative way you can think of to do it wrong has been done. So that's why we try to spend a lot of time on that.
On that concentric kit, if you want to bring those two together, could you just use a Y and 45s and tie them together with a 3-inch, you build out a 3-inch all the way, would that work?
The concentric kit, the exhaust is coming from the interior and the intake is coming on the exterior. So it's actually
So it's got
if you
That's
did
what I thought by looking at it, but I just want to double check.
yeah, if you did what you're doing, all you do is just suck exhaust back into the unit. It would air coat out. The unit is very easy to disassemble. All the error codes are right here on the inside. And then we also have a service manual that has the error codes for your quick reference. The number to Grant Hall is right here on the front of every unit. So when you get out to the job site, you need Grant Hall right there, or you can have them on speed dial.
But it never goes down, so don't worry about that.
That's right. You'll never need it. You can call and just ask them random questions just to keep them busy.
All right, so computer game, wait for that phone call.
Come on.
Got bored.
We do have 24/7 customer service. If you do call after hours, we have a new system in place where you'll actually, you'll have some prompts and then you'll leave a message. They'll email the guy that's on call and then he'll call you back.
A woman doesn't answer anymore and tell you someone's gonna call you back?
And it never happens?
During the no, we got rid of that answer, sir.
Yeah. I had the same thing happen to me too, so I'm with you on that one.
I
was
one
ready
of
for
the guys
this.
tell me, you can call me right back, I'll answer.
You betcha.
Hour
So
later.
that's what you'll get after hours. And I just found out yesterday, between 1 and 3 is the busiest time for our technical service. So if it's between 1 and 3, it's probably more than a week.
That's
Yeah,
when
all right
everybody's,
now.
that's when everybody's trying to get them off of them, they go poker games.
They got done, yeah. You're eating your lunch, calling them, wanting to know how to fix the thing. Okay, so now we're going to get into taking the unit apart. The gas valve, right here. I need a volunteer to take it apart. Who's volunteer to take it apart?
Go ahead, Bill.
Come on, it's easy.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
All right, we have to do alphabetical. What's your last name again?
I'll win.
I'm way at the bottom.
Zimmerman.
At the top corner.
Oh, I meant we were doing reverse alphabetical.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'll lose.